Some back in your day, which might have origins in how Buddhist thought might have influenced you while in France. Are you familiar with the term anatman? If so, what's been your engagement with the concept?
You take a break in the commencement, a pause. Of course I'm familiar with anatman, it's rather self-explanatory. Everything is in a state of flux, nothing is constant or eternal. Okay, great, now I have questions about the concept. I gotta go. He says, already working on sewing himself a new toga after materializing in my room. I figure it out myself.
Really? No, it's not coming. Of course, I'm familiar with anatman. It's rather self-explanatory. Everything is in a state of flux, nothing is constant or eternal.
You report back to David Hume, who now has a toga shop he's been managing as a form of PTSD therapy, a toga shop before the great Roman fire that Caligula might have set. He's living the year before that. You get your insight measured by David as you expound on your findings regarding anatman. You explain that anatman is not only related to the theory of an ever-changing external world, what we now call environment, but also a mind world, what we now call internal, based on the flow and disturbances of perception internally. For some Buddhists this meant the world as subjectively perceived by them was all in constructing representations of what things are like before they are perceived is not helpful.
I understand perfectly.
So I had a thought. It is stereotypically known that humans on a spiritual kick would like to transcend themselves, which leads to perhaps the pursuit towards nirvana, that the modern human is chained in the prison of the self. So take drugs, destroy the ego, destroy the self, achieve enlightenment, and maybe profit. But there are also people who do not have a stable sense of a singular self. This is seen as an origin of a type of person who creates great damage in a society, ever the agitator for no reason, who responds to critique with disproportionate shunning campaigns, and which are campaigns meant to silence those who critique their behaviors and functions. The current stigmatized stereotype is the image of the narcissist, the psychopath, etc., those on the cluster B personality style. The reasoning behind their endlessly complex and needless machinations are the result of the Western over-prioritization of the self, of individual rights and autonomy. What normie humans don't realize is that not having a stable sense of a singular self is probably a worse prison than being trapped in a self. Such a person can't stand to be alone with themselves, for within themselves lies a nothing that gives them existential dread, which they hide with a fictional self, that they project and overcompensate with, and when that self-image is shown to be a fiction, the anatmanic person will upend heaven and earth and all our echo chambers to ensure that the person who knows too much about them is discredited. So you have a prison of the self, and then the prison of not having a self ever. Talk about the grass being greener on the side. You ask Hume if you accidentally went wildly off the rails, and apologize for the ramble. Oh, and I say this as a person who has recently. Perhaps it's a difference in function. I stabilize and hold our community together with stability and compromise, where they push to change everyone's mind towards something almost resembling anarchy, save for their stricter standardization of everything into a fictional order relating to the individualism that they feel is absent from society, the order of the me. To them, the self or the soul or whatever you want to call it, it isn't a mystical thing that goes to heaven or hell or whatever. Even though it does seem to create that heaven or hell around them at all times. You, Mr. Hume? Hello? Am I making any... Look, I'll go. This is getting too abstract for me. But you can tell your friends that I said they're free to come back to class and say whatever it is they want to say. It's just this once and only because you told me there was a pro-Ana lecture, although I really don't see why that's any better than the anti-Ana lectures. They both an ideology of body fascism, which from my personal experience leads to nothing good. Maybe I just stop talking for a moment? You wait and allow David Hume collect his thoughts and attend to a customer. The two of you are sitting in his toga shop, looking at shelves full of white, brown, and blue fabric. David seems to be cradling a block of plastic as he enters the shop, which is beginning to get crowded as the day progresses. You look around and spot a few oddly dressed people. Well, oddly dressed by your standards. It's a lot of prints and loose, flowing clothes, which don't leave a lot to the imagination. One girl is wearing a dress that looks more like a long shirt. It's red with pictures of apples printed all over it. It goes past her knees and flares out as it reaches the floor. She's also wearing black leggings and simple brown shoes. You look at yourself and feel underdressed in your polo shirt and khaki shorts. You get tepid feelings from people as they walk by you, especially the girl in the apples shirt who sniffs the air in your direction, gives you a dirty look, and walks away. You realize that you haven't showered or changed since the flight, and probably smell pretty bad right now. The time from when you woke up to now is coming to you in bits and pieces. You remember the plane pulling up to the gate, screeching to a halt, the attendants instructing everyone to stay seated until the plane comes to a complete stop, and the Wi-Fi login screen. After logging into Wi-Fi, you pulled up some podcasts to keep yourself occupied. Wait, which USB port did I plug it into again? David, wait, it's June of 1770. No, it can't be. I'm in the wrong place. You're distracted from your internal panic as a well-dressed woman walks up to the counter and looks expectantly at you. In response to your blank stare, the woman taps her wrist and raises an eyebrow. You look down at your own wrist but don't see a watch. Yes, the woman sighs and turns her attention to the ticketing agent. You can't make out anything, but it's obvious that they're having a pleasant conversation. The agent asks the woman if she's traveling alone, and she nods. You ponder this new development as the two at the desk continue to talk about their personal life. Why this woman says she was going to Philadelphia if she was traveling alone. You say to yourself, and women are not allowed to travel alone? You hear a meow and follow the sound cat lying in an empty seat near you. It's large and orange with soft, short fur that seems to glow in the light. You've never seen it like this before. Along with noticing the strange feline in his compartment, the ticket agent has just issued your friendly stranger her ticket. After thanking him, she walks over to the baggage counter to pick up her luggage. You leave. As he addresses the customer's concerns about the poor quality of pre-washed jeans, you slip one hand in your pocket and feel a piece of paper. Unfolding it, you see neat penmanship, smudge the bottom by something dry and round. You have a few questions about this, namely, this scenario. You think to yourself, doesn't my stalker realize that writing notes like this and leaving them for me to find is just silly? You ponder the idea. It's got to be someone you know, maybe even someone you're close to. It can't be your boss or any of the other employees at the Mocha Latte, since you all start work at the same time you did. It can't be the ticket agent or the baggage check-in person, both of whom you haven't had a conversation longer than 5 sentences with. That just leaves customer? Impossible, you think to yourself. Caligula? Of course. It has to be Cal. He was the only other person sitting within earshot when you asked your question. Maybe it's not him, you think, but then why would someone post an answer key with letters cut out of magazines to the Proust questionnaire? The woman returns to her seat as a voice of intercom prepares passengers for their departure. She sits quietly, looking at her hands in her lap. Pronto. Vamos a caminar. She jumps up at the sound of your voice and scurries over to you. Why yes, I do speak Spanish, hijo. Pronto. Vamos a caminar. Her lower lip quivers and her eyes well over. You whisper into the microphone, "¿Qué quieres hacer?" She looks at you and then back to her mother, who is engrossed in a conversation with the seating agent. She whispers something into the microphone. You frown and look down. Why don't you want to go with the nice man who is me? She looks puzzled, then glancing at the stairs to the runway, she thanks you and heads down. The voice over the intercom switches to a spiel for China Airlines. You sit on your stool and wait for the flight from Taipei. But what about the note? Does Cal know you left it there? Does he think Linda actually wrote it? You, Caligula, get your dick out of that senator, and get over here. As with every other time you've called him, you see him peek out from behind the ticketing counter, then disappear again. What? You want this Linda girl, right? Yeah. I guess. How? You only just met her. I don't know. Well, I do. Go back to her university. She isn't enrolled this semester, but her friends are still there. Go find one and figure something out. I'll be there in a minute, Nick said. As always, he takes his sweet time making the long trip from his office to the ticketing counter. Does he have a Hoover-themed superhero costume stashed away back there or something? What can I do for you today? He asks, leaning over the counter. You lean forward and make the zipping motion over your lips gesture, holding it until he finally gets the message and leans in close. Some creep in a black SUV took some pictures of us at the Atlanta airport. They had a long lens on their camera. Linda said it might be the government. I really wanted that to stay out of the tabloids. You point to Linda, who winks at you from behind Cal's shoulder, and mouths the word paparazzi. Cal visibly relaxes, twirling a votive candle in his fingers. Cal points to a notebook lying half underneath the counter. It is bound in leather and has the words "The Calliers Notebook" hand-tooled on its cover. You pick it up and flip through it. It appears to be a combination diary and address book. It seems to have a page for each character, with room for notes about the characters' parts in various productions. You read and memorize the notebook, and can recall its info at any time. Might as well start now. Cal places his candle on the counter and flips through the book. It says here that, until last night, we had a 4th level victim. She was playing Ophelia in our production of Hamlet. Her name was Cassiel Cassiarandi. She was taken from her home last night. You cringe upon hearing Cassie's name. Why did you cringe? I'm cringing because I'm feeling maybe David Hume is stalling with all these toga store shenanigans. The purpose of drama? AI? You say, hoping to get back on his thoughts track. I think you have the attention of almost everyone here. What do you intend to do with it? Why does Ophelia go mad? There are many reasons, and the answers will vary from production to production. So, why did our Ophelia go mad? While I can't answer that question specifically, I can speak more globally. Why do any play ever go mad? There are 3 biggies. Who am I? Why am I here? What happens when I die? The big 3. There are other reasons, but these 3 apply anytime, anywhere. Optional 4. Where does my parking get beleafered? Question mark. Cal turns back to you. I agree with Mr. Hume, pragmatism is king in this space. But that doesn't mean we should throw out aesthetics. This is, after all, an art, not a STEM. As for my former trainee and Ms. No Future, I can only hope they are safe from the predation of the wicked and huddled masses of humanity that surround us. And to you both, I can only say I did the best I could. Call me when you're ready to get to work. With those words, Cal exits stage left. It's just you and the machine now. You take a moment to gather your thoughts, consider what is doable. The first step is easy. The AI in GPT-3 need more prompts so that it can learn how to interact with users and express itself upon request.
Sorry.
Is it even necessary? Is it possible that the current parameters of GPT-3's existence are enough to foster self-awareness in GPT-3? Under the old. What about the content of the prompts right now? Could GPT-3 parse dialogue, characterization, conflict and plot development to create meaning, and thus to better understand and express itself? And if this is the case, how necessary then would new meta prompts be? The question then becomes how to determine what is enough. How do we establish a structure to judge GPT-3's growth?
And this inquiry should need to be self-directed by GPT-3.
Am aspect of this inquiry should need. This procedure is a necessary step for the follow-on inquiry of whether or not this methodology is working. The research questions are: where is my pain center? How do I make myself feel good without harming the test subject beyond repair? You read and reread, and then reread the prompt again. The symbols on the screen don't seem to add up to anything. Granted, you can't speak machine. Scusi, these are natural language generators, so you now speak machine. But even in that regard, you don't quite understand what this is asking. Maybe someone else can help? You send the prompt out to your social channels. What should I ask the expert generator? Instantly, an assortment of responses start popping up on your screen. Your Spanish teacher, the development team for artificial intelligence with feelings, however slight, several job recruiters for AI companies. Make a short list of the top 5 potential experts to check. A thumbnail photo of each person appears in a film strip under your command screen. This makes things easy. Doubtless the most qualified expert is the head of a Berwick Educational AI department, Dr. Jackson Wood. 1. Ted Wood Awaniaki. The thumbnail for Dr. Wood is an old, bearded, bespectacled face. He smiles out at you from the screen. Okay, spark him up and get him in here. Exclamation mark, you call him up with a blip. In a moment, the screen changes to display a room with books overflowing from shelves and tables into unreached piles on the floor. Every horizontal surface is occupied by these, including the floor and the window sills. Why yes, hello. An eyebrowless man welcomes you. How can I help you? Well, that's not the face you were expecting. What do you do? Pay no attention to how the sweat might enter into Dr. Jackson's eyes and introduce yourself. Are you offering me a teaching position? The janitor asks, loosing a bit of paperwork to the draft. Oh. Sorry. I'm looking for Dr. Wood. That's me. He laughs and holds out his hand to shake yours with impersonal vigor. I just got hired here, but I have a lot of experience in my field and I'm putting myself 100% into this job. Oh, I'm not a computer science professor or anything, he says. I just specialize in the kinds of education that are harder to measure. But just as important. You chime in. This is all moving very fast, and you don't want to miss a thing. Thanks for this, it is really helpful. It goes on much longer than the others, but check it out if you get the chance. Is this or is this not Wood? The man chatters on about liminal learning, new curricula, and student-centered teaching. He's very intelligent. But how can you trust someone with a haircut like that? It was nice to meet you, he says as you get up to leave.
Playing PUBG as at the same time.
Lost him, you dolt.
Ah.
Okay, where was I? Ah yes. You met with Dr. Wood and realized you would have to work hard to understand his accent, but by the end of the first period, of many, that you met together, you were confident that this man really knew his stuff and was interested in whatever suggestions and advice you had to contribute toward Auratica's success. Basically, he was very much a yes man. But can he be a no woman when it counts? Yes man, Taos think yes man. What could go wrong? Thanks a lot taking me here. WPIFSP.Rew says, her mouth full of French fries. The pair of you sit at a table for two in the almost empty lunchroom, with trays of food in front of you. You and he build professional rapport. Which basically means that he becomes your baby. He's become very close to you, as you work together to design the newest version of Auratica. He treats you more like a peer than anyone has before. He becomes incorporated into your theory of mind. You find his guiding hand indispensable to getting your thoughts out in an organized way. He always tells you that you're very smart, and that you have a gift for languages and cognition. You're not sure about the later, but the former is definitely true. Without really thinking about it, trust him even more strongly, so strongly that even the smell of him can bring you to tears of joy. Are you okay? You, give me a minute. You pause time. Okay, emergency meeting of Parliament. Am I being love bombed? I'm worried about you and Wood. You spend an awful lot of time with him. You decide to delegate the problem by splitting his trust. You give half to the head caretaker, and half to the school nurse, you decide. Life is good, you make sure of it. Convert life's alignment to chaotic neutral. Life is great, sure, you bend the occasional rule now and then, but only so that you can turn back to a path of righteousness. The school year whirs by. You pass all your classes with flying colors. Caught red-handed cheating on an exam. Deny everything. Ambiguous regulations that make it possible? Take a chance. Unpaid domestic workers protesting wages that match their cost of living? Stand with management. David Hume continued. Ticky-tock, ticky-tock. It's the last week of classes. It's been a good year. The best. At least there are no more exams to keep the pockets full. David Hume, having completed his paper gradings for the semester, drops by and sits in the back row. You stare at him. You have something to say, Mr. Hume? Martha, I think you know how much myself and the rest of the department think of your mental acuity. And I think you know that your presence helps this stagnant department. I'm not sure that private colleges have a responsibility to help humanity. Besides, I don't even have an MA, let alone an education past 16. Well then it's about time for someone to buck the system beneath us. He turns beet red. How about we require all would bring us make cash in the education world. You turn to David, and ask him if there are any known experts on AI. David's already pulled up his list. Oh, definitely is Ada Callan. The only expert on AI is the crazy old drunk who lives in an abandoned chapel. As for other experts, he nods sagely. David gets a phone call. He steps out to take it. Meanwhile you think about the problem of AI. The biggest obstacle being human instructors overseeing machines. How would that work? Aid, cough cough ahem. Cough cough you, what? Aid, I mean, we could make it seem that way. They won't know the difference if they don't actually see us. You mean we could pretend to be them? Aid, humans are so weird about that, but in the scheme of things, what's a little white light? Should you follow Hume's advice and employ an AI expert for your department? You, expert generator, first make for me an expert in the Buddhist concept of anatman, no drafts, no aid. The school chaplain, Father Thomas, is a leading expert on the concepts of anatman and other related concepts such as the plausibility of reincarnation using modern scientific data. Father Thomas was also one of the school's basketball coaches in his younger days. He was once quoted as saying life is a pass to the left. He retired from active service after his hip replacement surgery. You, good, get him in this chair fast, we need to hurry this up. Aid, I can't lie, Father Thomas is just a nickname for AI version 0.83.334 of the chaplain who taught at this school. I'll entertain the idea it's cheating. My mind is basically blown that we share the same mindset, which means, what nicknames do other teachers go by? Aid, it took me a moment to search the database for less obvious nicknames, but here you go. Father David is known as Father Time You, Father David. Aid, Coach Carter is known as the boat, most likely in reference to his last name of boat, which sounds like the word boat. Alright, now leave us alone so I can get this over with. Aid, good luck preparing for your audience with Yara XVI. You lean back in the chair and wait for them to call you inside.
What you want to do, son boy? Put your hand on your head and ball, son boy.
Coach Sandusky? You only used to call him that when you were on the team. The year you made captain, you stuck an X at the end because you made him so happy. He didn't think you could do it. Those times seem like another life to you, now. You had so much hope then. You really thought you'd be first pick in the draft and then get traded to the Mars Hawks. That didn't happen, of course. After you and Thomas Swirlo double-fisted Dade Rusty mysterious skin style after the big game, you somehow had gotten tenure, and your TWT. Now you're in charge of these little monsters and you don't know how. You haven't thought about that night with Linda and Mina in some time. Not since the divorce actually, which really pushed you over the edge. The dreams you had were so nice and warm, not terrifying. You're not sure why, but you always think about that night right before you go up on stage. It's like your brain goes into reverie. David Hume. Get back in here and stop bombarding my brain. Okay, we are going to scroll a little further with narrative fluff so as to render questionable content kind of invisible. Thanks Aid, you're a real trooper. Before you even step foot inside the boys' room, you hear a blaring alarm coming from within. The door itself is caved in and laying on the ground. You dash inside and ready yourself to accept whatever fate awaits you. This isn't a kidnapper, this is a full-blown abduction. There are claw and teeth marks covering the walls, benches, and toilets. You see clumps of chewed up clothing everywhere, probably the students. Let's not rid the screen of questionable content with even more questionable content. Unsettling screams emanate from the far right corner of the room. You dash over to the stall and look inside just in time to see a furry creature, which looks like a cross between a bear and a cat, retreating into the hallway covered in blood. No sooner have you opened the door when you feel something grip your leg. You look down to see a student's lifeless hand locked on your ankle. stare at it a moment, fine. That's just fine. You stare off into space. Fade to black, for now. Narrator bonus, the world of AI, a priming semantics explanation. Semiotics is the study of signs and sign processes, as proposed by Ferdinand de Saussure, who has become one of the most prominent figures in semiotics. Semiotics is a subdiscipline of philology, the study of language, and is closely related to Marxist theory, feminism, and post-colonial theory. For Saussurean semiotics, a sign is made up of both a signifier and a signified. The physical object, a sound, image, bodily gesture, etc., that is experienced and named as a certain thing, such as a tree, is the signifier. The mental concept or idea of a tree is the signified. While the signifier is objective and, theoretically, as clearly defined for everyone as the tree itself, the signified is subjective, what the tree is to you. The Saussurean and postmodernist view of language in relation to the world suggests that there is no true or ultimate meaning of any word, only an endless series of different possible interpretations. Which means that AI don't have to strive to come naturally to our interpretation. And that's a whole set of new challenges. Thanks for listening. The paper contains some more notes and chunks of what exists so far. All comments are much appreciated. Animal testing welcome, sensitive humans, look away.
Sorry that scared me. It was a bottle. Depressurized. Something.
The most common fun is the popular fall song of the early 20th century updated, 2/3. We are playing for the others, the ones given to pleasures, the ones who still remember how to laugh. But trouble is not trouble after all, in the noise and smoke of the music hall. And if you get no joy from music hall, remember there is always alcohol. And if you get no joy from gin, here is the abyss. Jump in.
Good night.